Hi everybody, I'm Mrs. World of Wayne and welcome to my crafting world, and this time we're going to be looking at part 3 of the Cutebee Quiet House. So guys, today we're moving on to the kitchen. So at the end of the last video we had all the structure done and the ground floor was complete. Now what we're doing is we're going on to building the different elements of the house, and we're going to start with the kitchen. Here we go. So this is what the instructions look like for the creation of the kitchen, and as you can see there's lots and lots of different elements to make up those kitchen units and the little bits and pieces that go in the kitchen. So we're going to start off by actually making the sink unit up here. Now the instructions tell us that we'll need section C10 and C9, and C9 there are two parts. This is C10 and this is C9. And what we need to do is we need to glue C9 onto the end of C10. As you can see, I've already stuck one, and now we're going to glue the other one just here. Now these do sit on top of the unit, they don't sit flush to the unit. So once again, I'm using my amazing tacky glue. I'm just going to hold that there for a few moments. Okay, and while we're waiting for that to dry, we'll get on with the construction of the sink. So for the sink, they tell us that we need G16, and G16 is the metallic paper. And also they're asking us to use the template 320. Now what we're actually going to do is we are going to cut this out along the dotted lines, and then we're just going to stick the whole thing onto the metallic paper. Pasting on the whole of 320 onto the metallic paper will actually save time in the long run, and it also means that it won't be so tricky to cut out. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to paste some glue onto the back of the template. We want to make sure that the whole of the template is actually covered, and the reason for this is because once we start cutting out, we don't want bits to fall away. Now if you wanted, you could actually stick this first onto a thin piece of card, like a cereal box, because that will give it a bit more rigidity. Now both sides of this paper are mirrored, so it doesn't matter which side you stick it onto. So what we're now going to do is to cut round all of the individual pieces. With this, I actually think it would have been easier if they had given us a net, like you do when you unfold a box. Yeah, so a net to make up a 3D shape. And if I was to do this again, then I would create my own net. It's only the fact that actually I'm showing you this, how it comes. We do use this metallic paper for other things later. So make sure that once you've cut these pieces out, that you keep it in a safe place. I'm really sorry if you can hear that noise. It's actually Phoebe. She doesn't like me being in the workshop. She doesn't mind Wayne being out here, but she finds it really tough. So she's actually trying to get in. These bits are quite fiddly because the paper wants to move. I'm trying not to cut my finger. I think what I'm going to do for these final bits is actually just use some scissors. I do prefer my craft knife. I do think it gives a better edge. So those parts move to one side, and now we need to attach the parts. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach parts 2 and 4, and then 3, and finally 5. Well, I have to say that was incredibly tricky. And if you are going to do this build, then I would suggest that you put the pieces together and cut them out as one hole and fold the paper up. So what I'm going to do is move that to one side and let that dry, because that really does need to be fully dry before we attempt to insert it into the sink unit. So now that we've got our two supporting legs stuck on there, we're now going to paste C12 and C11, and they're the supporting walls for the cupboards. So they're going to go here and here. Now you will notice that in the bag that C has got, there are lots of pieces of white wood that look exactly the same. So make sure that you check on your template sheet that you're actually getting the right pieces. So I think that's C11, which it is, but C12 is actually a smaller piece. As I said to you last time, when you look at the instructions, the pieces look a lot bigger than they actually are. So do double check on the template sheet that you are actually using the right bit, because I would have just stuck the wrong piece in. So I'm going to start by sticking C11, and C11 goes just inside. It's going to sit just inside so that we can actually see some of the blue of the cupboard. So it's in a slight recess. That's the word. A dab of glue. Now I've got that in there, what I can now do is manipulate it so that I've got it straight. Now they're saying on the instructions you want about a 2mm gap. Now I know that this piece here is going to fit on at some point. So I'm just going to use that as a guide, because I know that if I can fit that flush like I can there, then I know I've got the distance correct. And then we can stick C12. Now in the instructions they have actually already, the first thing that they do is to stick the sink in. As I say, mine's drying. I'm going to leave that for a while. Plus I also think it's better to fix these in first, because then the sink has actually got a surface to stick to here. So remembering to paste 3 sides this time, and we can slot that in like so. Now with C12, according to the instructions, that's actually flush to the edge. And this furniture is tricky. It is small. I'm going to put that to one side and let that dry. Okay, so now we're going to paste the cooker, and the cooker front looks just like this, and this is section 211, and we're going to paste this onto C13, which is the piece we looked at earlier. Make sure you get glue into the corners. No one wants curly edges. And then we paste this. And that looks just like that. And again, we're just going to pop that to one side to let it dry. Okay, so while we wait for the other bits to dry, what we're going to do is we are going to create 2 doors and 2 drawer faces. And what we have here, so this is section C16 and this is C14. And we've got very tiny pieces here, and these are the handles. Now when you look for the drawers, which is this section, they're going to be pasted to the top up here, and for the cabinet we want these to be pasted quite close to the edge. So this is where I use my trusty tweezers. Now because it is a drawer, we want to make sure that this section is as central as we can get it, so that there's an equal distance both sides, just like that. And we need to make 2 of them. Now you don't want wonky drawers, so I am just going to, just by eye, check to make sure that the drawer handle is the same distance on both of them. So again, pop those to one side, let those dry. and then I can get on with the door handle. And these parts here basically make up that first base unit. So although not perfectly dry, this is looking pretty good. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're now going to attach the drawer fronts, the cooker and the under sink cupboard. Okay, so I'm going to start by sticking in the cooker front, and the cooker front goes up to this edge here. I do think that that sink is going to be the last thing that I put in. So if you're sitting there thinking, she hasn't put the sink in yet. No, that really needs to dry. Make sure you put it up the right way. There is a digital, what looks like a clock facing at the top. Before you stick this in, this needs to go here, but the drawers, which we've just made, need to sit flush next to it. So we just need to make sure that we can get those in. So now I can paste the drawer fronts. Make sure you do paste the drawer fronts up the right way. And with some gentle persuasion, they will fit. The good thing about this tacky glue is that, I've said before, does let you manipulate the piece for quite a while before it completely hardens. So there's number one. And number two. So we've got here the cooker and we've got the drawers. And now what we're going to do is we're going to attach the door fronts here and here. Tweezers, I think they are the Crafters Godsend. So what I'm going to do first of all is just stick both of these doors on, and then I will move them about until I'm happy with the positioning. They've tried to keep this as realistic as possible, in as much as you should be able to see a section of white in between where the doors close and at either edge. So now they're in, I can start to move them about. So I'm pretty happy with how those drawers look, and what we're now going to do is attach the sink to them. Now, truth be told, I'm not overly happy with how this has turned out. I think it could have been better. Creating a net from the sides would have made it a lot easier. Alright, I've still got holes, but for its purpose, it'll do okay. So I'm going to turn it upside down. I've already pasted one side, and I'm going to slot that on just like that. Okay, I'm not totally happy with how that's sitting in there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it upside down to dry and then come back to it later and see if I can just improve how it looks. Okay, so this is bag H, and bag H contains lots and lots and lots of different beads, from really, really small seed beads right up to larger ones. And this is what we use to create some of the smaller, finer detail within the house. So in that bag, you are going to find a number of these tiny green beads. And these are the beads they use for apples. And what they want us to do is they want us to take 5 of these and they want us to stick them in to a tulip type bead. So let's look for that. So this is the bead they're looking for. And what I've done is I've popped a little bit of glue inside and I've just dropped my 5 green beads in there. And that there is our bowl of apples. And this is when I said to you, sometimes you're looking for a piece that is a lot smaller than you actually think it is. So I'm going to pop that to one side for later. Now what we're going to do is create this plant down here. So we're going to look for the bead, H18, and then you also have some paper, tiny little squares of paper that are given to you, and we're going to chop them up and try and recreate this, this plant. So here we have our bead. So this is going to form the basis of our plant pot. And here are our 2 pieces of paper. And what we need to do is literally to cut down, okay, on both of them. Not using a craft knife for this. I am using scissors. Now we don't want to cut all the way down to the bottom. We are literally just cutting probably a good 3/4 of the way down. Nice narrow strips. And then we're going to do the same for the green section. If you buy one of the greenhouse or one of the garden kits, you end up being really good at making plants like this. Just going to check, I've got a couple here that I think are a bit too thick. I'm just going to trim them down a little bit. And then what we do is we take this section and layer it over this section, like so, and then roll it up so that it looks a little bit like a leek. This is quite tricky, especially when you've got chunky fingers like me. And it's going to look something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop a little bit of glue at the bottom just to hold that together, but also just enough so that when we put it inside the vase it's not going to fall out, because the glue will hold it in place in there as well. We can squeeze the bottom of it together and pop it inside the bead. And then what you do is you just very, very gently curl back some of the fronds. Just like a real plant, you don't want too much gathered in any one area. Just a gentle bit of persuasion. Just going to get the tweezers. I seem to have a rogue leaf. It wants to go in a different direction to everybody else. And considering this is made out of paper, do you know what? It looks pretty cool. We're now going to make a chopping board. And this is your chopping board right here. It's part C17. So we're going to use this. Take one of our apples. We're going to use this brown paper here. And this is a bit like crepe paper. Brown crepe paper. We want our slices of melon, and we want our slices of lemon, and we also need to bring back our foil paper. Now I've already, if I show you this, so this is template 215, and this is the knife, and this is the knife that sits on top of the chopping board. Okay, so what I've already done is I've already cut that out and pasted it. I don't know if you can see that very well because of the lights, but I've pasted it here onto the mirrored paper. And what we're going to do in a minute is cut that out. So again, I'm going to use scissors for this. If you look on that side, you'll actually be able to see. So now to make the handle of the knife, we're going to use this small piece of, I suppose, mint green paper. And we're going to glue that onto the edge and then just fold it round. So I'll do that now. Again, This is when it gets a little bit fiddly. Glued that on there. What I'm then going to do is fold this piece of paper over. Now it doesn't have to be exact, because on the instructions what they're saying is the handle should be slightly wider. If you think about any sort of implement that's used for cutting, then the handle, I don't know if ever you watch Forged in Fire, then the shaft that goes into the handle is always a lot narrower than the handle itself. Make sure your fold is on the reverse of the knife so that you're not going to see it. And because this gets glued down onto the chopping board anyway, I'm not even going to attempt to try and get that paper off of here. It's not necessary. And there you have it. I think that looks really cool. So I'm going to pop that to one side and just let that dry for a bit longer, and we'll make the apple. So this paper here, say it's just brown crepe paper, and what they're saying to you is that you need just to chop off the tiniest amount. They're saying 4 millimeters. Now seriously, am I going to get a ruler and measure this? No, I'm not. I'm just going to do it by eye, and it is a really tiny amount. Now, I know when I practiced this indoors, it flew away, so I'm just hoping that it will just chop and just land. Doesn't want to cut. There it is, perfect. Okay, so this is now what I've ended up with. So here, tiniest piece of paper. I'm just going to gather it up and bring it back together again, because this is going to form the basis of the stalk of the apple. So using my tweezers, I'm just going to dunk this into the glue. Just very gently, just the tip of it. As you can see, it's got the tiniest amount of glue on there. And then I'm going to pop it inside the apple, like so. Now remember, this glue dries clear. But as you can see, your tiny little green bead has now turned into a perfectly formed apple. Oh, that I've just dropped. No, it's here. I haven't lost it. And it looks really cool. I'm going to pop that to one side. And now we're going to cut up some lemons. So this comes pre-made for you. And if I just show you here, you can see the watermelon seeds running through. And we just want a couple of slices of this. The good thing about these is that you don't use the whole thing. So I've got about 2 or 3 of these now that I can use in my doll's house. So moving everything to the side, all I'm going to do is just cut myself a couple of wedges of lemon. And again, there you have it. They are just so cute. And we're going to do the same for the lemon. Now on the instructions, they're saying that they actually want a wedge, as though you'd quartered a lemon. So what I'm doing is I'm actually cutting on the diagonal, which hopefully should give me, oh wow, look at that. See better on that one. The perfect lemon slice. Oh, I think it's almost time for a G&T, guys. So I'm going to just cut another one. Please be really careful. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use these to hold it. You don't want it slipping. You certainly don't want your fingers anywhere near your craft knife. Perfect. And what we're actually going to do is just pop a dab of glue on the edge, on the bottom of those pieces, and put them onto the chopping block. And obviously you can set this how you like. They've got both of their melon slices standing up. I'm going to have them actually leaning on top of each other. And as you can see, we've got a really cute chopping board now with some fruit on it. So we're going to pop that to one side as well and let that dry. So what I'm now going to do is to bring back my sink unit and onto here, just above where the cooker is, we're going to stick the gas hob. We need to make sure that those two dials are facing the front. I tend to go really quiet. I'm really sorry when I'm concentrating. Wayne says I frown when I concentrate. I also frown a lot when I read because I'm concentrating. Now looking at the instructions, they have stuck. There's quite a distance from the edge, and I suppose we don't have a gas hob, but thinking about it, if you've got a gas hob that's recessed into your unit, then there is going to be a section at the beginning, at the front. So now that that's stuck on, what that enables us to do is we can now add the plant pot. So that's going to get glued to the corner over here. Now in my doll's house, I'm not gluing anything down because obviously I want it to be usable. But in this, everything will be glued down. Now there isn't a base here. When it goes into the actual house, obviously it's stuck to the wall. So I apologise now if I knock the table and it falls over. We've also got our bowl of apples. Now in the bowl of apples, they actually haven't put stalks in any of the apples, but I might actually come back later and stick a few stalks in there because I actually think it looks really authentic with the stalks on. For the time being, I'm just going to pop a bit of glue there. And again, the placement of the items is completely up to you. If you didn't want this bowl of fruit here, then don't have it here. Save it and put it somewhere else later on. And then over here is where the chopping board goes. I've got a bit too much glue on my brush. Just going to get rid of some of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste this. And I'm going to stick that on. Like so. There are two more items that they've got. This bead here that they're using as a seasoning, I suppose like a salt and pepper, and this little one here. Now this here is tiny, so this here is G36 and this is H29. That's small. And what they want us to do is to actually paste onto the top there so that it looks like it's got a lid. The people that create these must have a really amazing imagination, because basically what they're doing is they're looking at everyday objects and thinking, yeah, I can, oh I've done a Wayne. It's flinged off, but I found it. They're looking at everyday items and saying, do you know what? I can make that into something else. And I do admire people that can do that. I don't know if any of you are watching the currently. So we're now sort of at the beginning of May 2022, and there's a Dollshouse challenge program on More4, and those people are doing exactly the same. They have a challenge and what they need to do. Sorry, I'm just pasting the bottom here because we're going to glue this on. They have to make something so they can go into the stock and take whatever they want, and they are literally making things out of beads, little bits of wood. I'm just going to stick that there. Okay. And we're going to stick that there. And there you have it. So I'm going to leave it there for today. I think that's quite a lot to take in. But I do think it's really coming along, and I think it looks really cool. So if you are following along, I would definitely make a net and create my sink that way. You're never going to put water in it. It's never going to be played with. Once it's in the actual house itself, it's tucked into the corner. There's then a floor above it. You're not actually going to see it. So you might not want to stress over it too much. I think everything else, though, looks really amazing. And I think it sort of draws your eyes to that. So next time we'll be finishing off the kitchen cupboards and making the fridge freezer. And then that's actually the kitchen done, and we can move on to the dining area. So until next time, guys, take care. If you enjoyed this video, please click like. And if you like what we do, the content on these videos, please subscribe. Bye.